What is up, guys? My name is Jason Ankin and this is my vlog channel. So yes, we're going to do another vlog today. Get a little bit more light in there. No, it's too much. So yes, so this is my vlog channel where I just literally turn on the camera and start talking about a specific topic that I'm currently thinking about. There's no real sort of thing to this. So I'm going to continue a little bit on from what I was talking about in my last video, which was basically I was talking about my political views, and I tend to come out as quite left-wing libertarian, but I more positively identify with a libertarian worldview. So it's not necessarily that I study libertarianism, or it's just temperamentally I find myself fitting with a more libertarian worldview. And essentially the core ethic of libertarianism is the idea behind freedom as being the most important sort of political objective that you can attain within society. So that's what I want to do. I want to actually delve in a little bit into this concept of freedom. And what is freedom? Do we actually have it? And there's different ways of looking at it. There's not just sort of one specific way that we can be free. So yeah, obviously there's this brilliant quote. It's by a political philosopher called Jean-Jacques Rousseau. And he basically says that we were born free and now we are everywhere in chains. And this is the idea that sort of humanity, basically, if you subscribe to the idea that humans are animals, which I do because we have evidence to prove it, and it's observable. You just need to look at yourself and you will see that you are one. So yes, there was one point in our history, in our ancient past, and this kind of ties into a bit of a theme that's going on within my videos, is this reversion back to the early days of civilization in comparison to the modern. So yeah, we were at one point, if you subscribe to this sort of evolutionary model, at one point we were basically living in nature, and we were wild animals, essentially living in the wild. What science has shown, what evolution has shown, is that humans are something like 200,000 years old. And I recently seen a statistic on the internet, and it's something like we only know 3% of recorded history, meaning that 97% of human history is undocumented, unrecorded. So that's vastly more time that has been undocumented. And then you can also extend this back further. For example, Western Europeans have been shown to have, I think, 2 to 4% of their DNA is Neanderthal, and Neanderthal can be found as far back as 600,000 years in Europe. So that's a pretty damn long history. That's a pretty damn long time in which we did not live in civilization. So at one point in our ancient past, humans were truly, quote unquote, free. And obviously in today's modern age, we're becoming ever more integrated and ever more I guess attached to this system that we live within and the society that we live within. And I'm starting to wonder whether this is a good idea, and sort of are we going in a wrong direction where we're kind of becoming more and more ever integrated into the system, and we're kind of, does this then lead to us actually losing our individual autonomy? Because obviously, especially with things as we're now moving towards things like artificial intelligence, And I'm a little bit, that could be another video topic that we talk about as well, because I've got a lot to say about that, which I'm quite skeptical about. But the sort of the mainstream idea is that maybe in 100 years we're going to start integrating robotics and stuff into our body, and we'll be using AI to make decisions for us and stuff. And what will that do to our individual autonomy and volition if we're constantly referring to an artificial intelligence to make decisions for us? Or will we actually have freedom? So it's an interesting thing, and obviously there's different sort of and I guess that would be the main thing that I'm mainly concerned about, because you can tell yourself, I had this one experience when I was a child, and it was the very, very first day that I basically went to primary school. And I remember it because it was just a very memorable experience. And it was day one of primary school. And I went into primary school. And this will tell you about my temperament. Even from a very early age, I was exhibiting these kind of rebellious, freedom-seeking qualities. So day one, we go into primary school, and everybody's wearing their uniforms, one form. And I was a little confused. I was a little bit like, what is this? I was unsure what we were doing. I don't think I was properly prepared for school. So I didn't really go to nursery. I went to like a daycare center, but it was outside of school. It was in like a community center away from the school building. So I wasn't really ready for the transition from like play school to a formal school. So when I got into the school, I was primary one. I was about 5 years old, and I could see this authoritarian teacher type, and we had to sit on these chairs, and on the table we would have our name. So you had to sit on your specific seat with your name on it and stuff like this. And I remember I did a runner. So I ran away, and basically so I ran out the door, and I remember it vividly. I came out the door, turned left, and then I came out of the little gate, and basically I started running up the side of the school. There was this steep hill, and it was right up the side of the fence. The school I used to go to was called Kings Park Primary. And I was running up this hill, and I got about a third of the way up the hill. And I remember that the teacher obviously caught on to the fact that I had ran out of school. And she basically grabbed me by the right arm and just pulled me back in. I was too slow at this point. I was only 5 years old. But that's it's always stuck with me as kind of like a metaphor for like what I've been trying to do throughout my whole life, is trying to get the hell away from the system from day one. As soon as I was put into as soon as I was put into this setting, I instantly was triggered. It's like, this doesn't feel right. I'm wearing the same costume as everybody else. I'm asked to be sitting in a chair. I got my name tag. There's this authoritarian teacher that I don't like, and I split. I was out of there, and I got caught, and being dragged back was kind of like a metaphor for me trying to get the hell out of this modern society. And throughout primary school, I was a rebel. I was the bad kid in class, and this was the case right the way up until my GCSEs, and even when I spent time in the army and stuff, I was always the one going against the grain and going against what I was expected to do. And as I get older, once you get released from the education system kind of thing, you basically begin to realize now you start to kind of voluntarily attach yourself to the system. So you begin to, rather than now being, you're legally bound to go to school and this type of stuff. Now when you're an adult, you have to make decisions. You have to get a job in order to earn money so that you can pay for a house. And these type of things actually become, these external factors outside of you actually become kind of, they encroach upon your freedom, because now, I mean, for example, I can't go out into a forest, for example, and start chopping down trees in the middle of Northern Ireland and just build a cabin. I can't do that because it would be considered illegal. So how free are people really? And you know, there's so much. You got like your birth certificate, you got your driving license, you've got to pay for a mortgage, you have to pay for a job. Even when you get married and you sort of become married to somebody, you're contractually bound to that individual. So it seems that as you become an adult, you become ever more, you make decisions that wrap you up in the system. You become ever more attached to these external institutions, governments, companies, corporations, etc. And I've started to wonder, like, is this right? Are we really truly free? And I think this is why that quote makes a lot of sense. That man was born free and now he is everywhere in chains, because, and it seems to boil down to, there seems to be a logical reason why there is a lot of this regulations. If you just be sensible, yes, you want to be radical and think, you know, I want to be totally free. But there is a rational reason for this. If you're running a government, for example, and let's say that you want to, like, if you own a house and you're going to sell it to somebody, then basically you want to guarantee that you can get the money for that house. So you create contracts and stuff like that. And it totally makes sense. And obviously, the more and more people within society, let's say, for example, you're allowed to freely choose as long as it's good. But if you choose to do something that's bad, meaning detrimental to others, then you're encroaching upon their freedom. So what happens within society, what happens within governments and stuff like this, is they create more rules, they create more laws that basically say you can't do that because you're encroaching upon someone else's freedom. But what happens is, the more and more of these laws that are created, eventually they start creating these laws for these tiny little petty things, and almost everything becomes regulated. And because everything becomes regulated, then essentially, yes, you're trying to protect others' freedoms, but once you start to become so regulated to the point where now you're encroaching upon people's freedoms, and I think that's what's slightly beginning to happen within society, is that our freedoms are now slowly but surely being taken away from us, because essentially because of bad people breaking the law, and then governments and legal systems and politicians are creating policies, creating new laws that are basically saying we're doing these laws to protect you, but in reality what they're doing is they're taking our freedom away from us. For example, like tracking your activity on your mobile phone. You know, if you've got your GPS on your phone, for example, all the time, your whole location is being tracked constantly. That's kind of infringing upon your right to privacy. Also, maybe when you're using social media applications like Facebook or Twitter or YouTube, like when I post this video on YouTube, after it's done uploading, it gets processed. So the information that I'm saying gets processed. Sorry, someone is ringing me. Decline. So yeah, the information basically gets processed, and you know, that's kind of getting in the way of your privacy. That's getting in the way of your freedoms. And this is kind of what I'm seeing a lot more occurring within society, is that government is getting a little bit too big. It's starting to now encroach upon your day-to-day life. And it's becoming very, I don't know how it's going to end, and you know, where this is going to continue going. One solution seems to be, well, if you look at sort of, for example, if you look at how all these laws and stuff are created, they're created based upon immoral action. So basically, individuals become selfish. They want stuff. Maybe they want to harm somebody. Maybe they want to steal something. Maybe they want to lie, or because they're trying to hide something from others. Or maybe they're intoxicated and, you know, not in control of their mind. So basically, or maybe they're greedy, they want money and stuff like this. So they're basically trying to find these ways within society to basically manipulate people. And basically from that, as a consequence, legal services see this, and it's just a process over time. It's a long-term process that occurs, and basically, so there's a direct relationship. What I'm trying to say is there's a direct relationship between governments getting bigger and an increase in immorality. So the more immoral people are, the bigger governments are going to the bigger governments are going to become. And obviously that's a problem, because within society we have 7, or if you take it on a world scale level, we have 7 billion people on planet Earth. So that's a lot of immorality. There's a lot of people out there doing a lot of bad things. So it's inevitable that we're going to be moving towards more and more regulation and more control of our freedoms. And I just don't know where that's going to go, because when you can see already what's beginning to change in certain certain countries like China, for example. If you've looked into what they're doing, they're creating this application, and it basically, I don't know if you've seen that movie, Black Mirror, and basically I haven't watched it myself, but I've seen clips about it. It's basically where people have these apps, and basically based upon your behavior, you have a social status ranking on an application, and basically you are judged based upon your social status. And it was kind of a precursor, you know, it was kind of showing us a window. And basically what it led to is people becoming superficial and people becoming really just fake, because they're trying to look good on camera to try and sort of get higher social status or higher social ranking. And you can see this on YouTube as well. There's people who post videos purely for the purpose of coming across as good to others. They're looking at external validation. Now the problem is China is actually beginning to implement this in real life. So they've created this application where basically they will monitor your behavior, and basically they've got all of this, you know, video cameras and stuff like this that can track. You can use facial recognition, so it can monitor what your behavior is doing. It can monitor what websites you're checking on the internet, so on and so forth. And basically based upon your behavior, based upon what they perceive to be right and wrong, they can actually determine what you can do with your social status. So for example, if you have a high ranking social status, I don't know, you'll get like cheaper food, you get more offers, you'll be able to travel, you'll get like discounts and stuff like this. Whereas if you've lower social status, they can actually remove things like they can take your car away, or they can take your ability to travel on public transport away. And this is actually being implemented in China today. And I believe it's going to be fully rolled out in the next couple of years for every citizen. So something like that is really, really scary, because that is now using technology to manipulate human behavior. And over time, like I said, once we develop more artificial intelligences and stuff like this, what will happen is basically the artificial intelligence will be able to make better decisions than us, because it will, let's say for example, it has pure logic and it has access to all information on the internet. So its logic is perfect, it has access to every single fact on the internet. It'll be able to make decisions far better than you, So then it'll get to the point where people won't even be able to make their own decisions, and you'll essentially be nothing more than almost like it takes me back to like behaviorism, the study of behaviorism, where you have like a mouse in a maze, and the mouse runs about the maze to push a button, and then they get the treat. It's kind of like that. It's creating technological systems that are using behaviorism principles or behavioral psychology principles to sort of incentivize good behavior and disincentivize bad behavior. But that can only get to the point of where you have total and complete control over every decision that the individual makes, which is really scary, because then you've just got zombie people. And I think that's probably what is really important about freedom, is that it boils down to your ability to make a choice. It's your ability to make a decision about how you live your life. And this was discovered thousands of years ago. Again, I'm a fan of Stoicism, and one of the core sort of lessons taught by the Stoics is that the only thing that man has complete control over is his reasoned choice. And this was actually one of the first sort of references to equality, sort of because women have the capacity to reason as well, and women have the capacity to choose. So men and women are both equal in their capacity to choose. It's not, modern equality is more like things like equal outcome. So you want the gender pay gap and stuff like this here, but that's not what equality is really about. The ancients taught us that equality is boiled down to your ability to choose, and men have the capacity to choose, and women have the capacity to choose, and therefore men and women are both equal, because all that a man has is exactly all that a woman has, and basically everything else is outside of your control. Your body's outside of your control, your social life is outside of your control, and your external environment is out of your control, but your ability to choose, your ability to decide, almost like you come to a fork in the road, and you can choose either way. You can either go the right way or the wrong way, and that right way is determined objectively by nature, and that's why I believe in objective good and evil. And I think that's really what freedom boils down to. It's your ability to make a decision. And I think as we're moving towards, increased growing population, creating more bad problems in the world, that leads to more regulations. These regulations eventually go past the tipping point, and basically they will start to then encroach upon our lives, and then eventually it could end up like something in China where they eventually actually fully regulate your behavior with these social apps. If something like this came into Britain, I honestly would ditch my smartphone. I would throw it into a river or something. There's no way I would follow any social status app to sort of appease some sort of external government. It would not happen. That would be, for me, I would opt out. I'd be like, right, I'm done with society. I would take a backpack and I would friggin' bail. There's no way I would take part in society if it went to that level of social control. I just couldn't do it. I truly know that that's wrong. It's you're basically treating people like animals, and that should be controlled and regulated. And there's no external government or no external institution that has that right, even if it's for safety. It's highly dangerous. And you can also see this as well, because obviously the relation between your ability to choose is also very strongly related to your ability to speak, and this relates to free speech as well. And I'm a little bit, free speech as well. I kind of do have a bit of regulation on speech. I think a bit of regulation on speech is important. You can do hate speech. I believe in what's called true speech or right speech. I'm not necessarily a full-on free speech advocate, because you can lie and you can use your speech to, let's say for example, you want to commit a terrorist attack. Like someone wants to commit a terrorist attack, so they're getting on their phone, they're talking to their buddies, they're talking to their gang about committing a crime. that's using your speech in a very destructive way. But I believe in the right to speak truly, because obviously if you, even if it means offending people, and that's kind of related to your ability to, it's kind of related to freedom. I think that's why it's the most fundamental. It's kind of like a dividing point, you know, between sort of left-wingers and right-wingers, is that free speech is kind of like, once you regulate speech, then you're essentially controlling someone's mind. And that's why a lot of people on the right hate people that are trying to basically regulate speech with hate speech laws and stuff like that that are occurring in my country, the United Kingdom. But it is necessary, because it goes back to these individuals that are committing immoral actions. And sometimes you also have to worry about within society whether crimes are actually real or staged, because certain crimes can be staged for the purpose of creating more regulation. So as well, more people that basically want hard, let's say authoritarian types who want more and more control, they might fund crimes or something like that to actually, and then they'll use a lot of money to get lots of publicity behind it, and then from that they'll have like a legal case set up ready to create a new law, and then it basically gives them more control. So you need to kind of watch out for these things. As someone who's kind of libertarian by nature, I'm very acutely aware of them, because I can feel it when someone's encroaching upon my freedom. It's just like, I can sense it immediately. And like I told you from my original story, I've had this instinct from as young as 5 years old, and it's always been a natural instinct. And I think it comes from the fact that I spent many years basically watching documentaries on science and nature, because I knew that we have this thing called civilization. But when I was watching nature documentaries, I knew from a very young age that there's this other world, and I knew that we originally came from there. So I think that intuitive instinct has always been there from a very young age, because of my interest in the natural world and stuff like that. So I'm going to leave it there for this video. So yeah, we just want to discuss a little bit about, to extend a little bit more about freedom and libertarianism, and sort of what's going on within society and how that's beginning to encroach upon people's lives, because I'm sure everybody's experiencing it. You know, as you become more of an adult, you start to realize, you know, am I really free? Am I really making decisions? Am I really just going to work to fulfill someone else's goals and stuff like that? But anyway, so I'm going to leave it there. So yes, if you have any comments that you want me to answer in the next video, you can post them down below, and I will try to get back in the next video. Remember, you can follow me on Instagram at jason.ankin. So yes, my name is Jason Ankin. This is my vlog channel, and I will see you next time. Bye.